All right, it's time to look into what's trending in employment law. Lawyer, you're on the clock.
All right, so I want to talk today about what I think is going to be the employment issue of 2024. There's going to be a lot going on with the administrative agencies in what might be the Biden administration's last year in office, may or may not be, not making commentary one way or the other, but you could expect the administrative agencies to be very, very active during this election year. And I'm talking about the EEOC, the Department of Labor, and the National Labor Relations Board primarily. But more importantly, I think that we are going to see a wave of cases moving through the courts that is really going to shake up what's going on in the labor and employment realm throughout workplaces in America. And I want to talk a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals is hearing a case filed by two Native American Christian employees of a Minnesota psychiatric hospital, and they're going to try to convince that appellate court to revive their lawsuit challenging workplace anti-racism and gender identity trainings on religious and First Amendment grounds. The oral argument will take place in that case today. These two individual employees, a father and a son, are trying to overturn a lower court ruling that they didn't show how their objections to the mandatory trainings led to an adverse employment action against them. And so the reason I'm sharing this case with you is that this is really going to be a huge issue. Litigation based on faith-based and other objections to workplace diversity trainings is really percolating throughout the country after the U.S. Supreme Court in June established a new standard, making it more difficult for employers to reject workplace religious accommodations under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. And you combine that with the Supreme Court's decision earlier this year, rejecting basically the consideration of minority categories in education, in college admission programs, and saying that considering race in particular is illegal. And so I think that we are going to see really a proliferation of these suits around the country as we move through next year. So not only do we have that case that I just shared with you, there's also another case where you have on the flip side a group of transgender and non-binary public school teachers that have sued the Department of Education in Florida over a new law that prohibits teachers from sharing their pronouns with students unless the pronouns align with their biological sex. So again, kind of going along with the DE&I efforts, I think you're going to also see next year quite a bit in this area dealing with transgender issues and pronoun issues. I think these two issues are largely tied together, and this is going to be really something that we're going to see quite a bit. Just about a week ago, Macy's, the department stores were sued for what's been alleged to be their discriminatory hiring practices. There's a pro bono nonprofit legal firm called America's First Legal, and they filed a civil rights complaint against Macy's for its diversity and inclusion policies that required hiring quotas based solely on race. So, of course, that led me to take a look at this America First Legal, which has been bringing these lawsuits. And if you go to their website, aflegal.org, there's a tab at the top that says cases. And if you click on that, you can read about all of the lawsuits that they have pending currently against entities such as the Mesa Unified School District, the Board of Education for Montgomery County Foundation, against the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, let's see, the North Base Apparel Company, just over and over. And a lot of their lawsuits that they have going on are tied to their to companies' diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. And so I do think that employers, the reason I'm sharing this is that employers really, really need to be careful about their DE&I programs. And Nick's going to either has or will put up a graphic on the screen. This is an AP Reuters poll or survey that they did, and 65% of corporate leaders are very concerned about the future of DE&I at their company. 9% say that they've already seen a decreased commitment at DE&I in their firm, and 60% say that DE&I, they're talking about it differently to outsiders now, and 26% say they're sending out fewer press releases about DE&I at work. So all of that brings me to my next comment here, and that is that with DE&I programs under more and more scrutiny, and again, it's really as a result of this June 2023 Supreme Court decision that ruled that race-conscious admissions in higher education are unconstitutional. The corporate DE&I policies and initiatives are facing greater scrutiny and legal challenges. Now, not to be outdone and to give my firm a little bit of a plug to help you navigate these changes, Ogletree, we've developed a toolkit to evaluate DE&I initiatives, assess legal risks, and provide recommendations and best practices. This toolkit includes extensive summaries and analysis of federal and state laws on DE&I initiatives, template documents, and a DE&I virtual consultation for a flat fee of $1,500. Of course, separately, our attorneys can conduct a privileged assessment of your DE&I initiatives at an hourly rate. But know that we have this toolkit available, because if, as I've been saying on this program for several years now, if you wade into the DE&I effort without paying attention to the legal landscape going on around you, you are definitely going to be putting your company at risk for potential litigation. And again, I think that next year is going to be the year where we start to see a lot more litigation and a lot more lawsuits filed against companies over their DE&I programs. So I think people really need to be careful about this. I know I've taken up my full lawyer on the clock today talking about DE&I, but this Macy suit and the other ones that are proliferating throughout the country right now really do present a fundamental shift in the legal landscape relating to DE&I. And I know a lot of companies are committed to DE&I, but you have to be careful as you wade into that effort. Tanya, you have any thoughts on what I've shared?
I do have a couple of thoughts. When I'm talking to our members, a lot of what they're asking about is just a sense of belonging, right? That's the language I'm hearing a lot. Do our employees have a sense of belonging in our organization? And I always tie that back to the company's mission and values, right? That's the quickest path in my mind that way. I'm wondering, just at that very high level, and I think your evaluation is such a great tool. I would really encourage people to explore that. But is that a safe space to be, or are there even pitfalls even in that language, wanting to create a sense of belonging?
Yeah, I think creating a sense of belonging, and I think the concern there would be is, what does it mean to belong? Mm-hmm. And just shifting the language in and of itself is probably not going to pass muster with the Supreme Court if the results are still the same, that employment decisions are being made based on race, religion, national origin, sex, gender, disability status, et cetera, et cetera. I think that, again, Title VII, as I've said on the program for years now, Title VII requires employers to make decisions without respect to those protected categories, and DE&I, if done incorrectly, actually makes decisions based on many of those protected categories. So again, something we need to be very, very careful about. I do think that's going to be the huge issue for 2024, along with the transgender pronouns. The courts are going to give us some guidance on how to better deal with those types of issues in the workplace. So that's what. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, let's make sure we team up, because I think this could be an entire maybe series that we can do, because it's a lot of questions that we're hearing. But I'm going to do my Phil moment and say, that's been lawyer on the clock, so that we can get over to Doug as well.
Very good. Let's do that.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link, aimea.org/thisweekatwork, Or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment, like LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere you are. And you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.